make really good content, and particularly around food content always does well online because, you know, people like eating and I think there's a lot of scope for making nice food content like that. So I can share my screen, right, Becca? Yes. So one second while I share this PowerPoint. As I said, I'll just run through this, and if there's something that you want me to go over or cover again, can everyone see that? Yeah. So yeah, I've started off with a kind of like, what was the last kind of image that kind of got your attention? The examples I put in for myself was the one on the left is, you know, I'm sure a lot of you saw this when this sad case of this person missing, this text me when you get home, just because it's, I think, a good example of a really simple image that wouldn't have taken a lot of work or anything, but kind of gets a message across. And then this one about COVID, because whenever I see that on my street, I feel like I should follow the rules. So I wondered if anyone had any examples of any images they saw recently, and like what do they like about them, or what do they think was effective about them?
I'll add there, I just tend to be drawn to pictures that are that have like really good lighting. I don't think it has to be a specific subject, but I think it's the lighting that's sort of something that just jumps out whilst you're scrolling. So I don't tend to look at everything. It's just like something that jumps out.
So something, that like visually kind of captures your eye if you're scrolling on your phone.
Yeah, so it's not a particular subject, but I think they tend to always have really good like, striking lighting in them, which is what I hope to learn today.
Can I add one thing? It's been triggered by what Charmaine said, that I totally get the good lighting, etc. But then my mind jumped to something else, and answering in the negative, I can't stand stock images, in the sense that when you keep saying stock image and you just recognize them straight away, despite the good lighting, despite everything is kind of look perfect, it's so perfect it becomes unreal. So then when it gets so much distant, then it's immediately fake and it loses any immediacy and ability to access it. Despite the good lighting, so I think I totally agree with Charmaine in agreeing that it's great to get good professionally looking and beautiful looking images because they're so striking, but going perfect sometimes has its own drawback.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Sometimes I see food images and it's like the contrast is up to that the food doesn't look real almost, and it turns me off a bit. So yeah, I think there's something to be said of finding a balance between maybe like getting a nice picture on your phone that you can edit a bit to make look nice, but that also is, someone looking at it will think that's actually a real thing and it has not been like photoshopped to the 9th degree or something.
I like the first one you showed with the yellow and red wheelbarrows.
Yeah.
I thought it was like, it's like they know where they're going.
I hope so anyway.
they're walking together, sort of like there's a real determination in there. It just conveys quite a bit of energy, I think.
Cool.
Yeah, can I just say that I've been looking at quite a lot of growing videos, and there seems a penchant in America for everybody to do a video, but they're usually very tediously slow and long, and I've lost the will to live after about 5 minutes and switch off because they still haven't got to the point. So I think for me, it's snappy to hold my attention.
Or it's even maybe as well like telling you what it's going to show you earlier at the beginning. I was at something once and they were saying that they've changed the way they make movie trailers for social media, because it's like if you don't get to the point in the first, say, 10 seconds, someone will tune off. So they've reformulated that, say, the way you might see it in the cinema, because they know they got to get to the point faster.
Yeah.
Cool. So then I've just said, to create meaningful messages, keep it simple. And I also think that how do you want the person to feel? I think it was good that someone pointed out that the first image maybe you feel like energized or empowered. Because yeah, we've used that image a bit for different petitions and actions. And I think actually, Charmaine, we've used one of you gleaning sweet corn, like holding your hand up in the air a few times as well. So yeah, thinking about like, if someone sees this image, what will they think? So then, yeah, moving on to using images. I just picked these two because I thought they were quite striking again. One is to demonstrate a lot of food waste, and one, I'm sure you've all seen posters like that, the kind of Dig for Victory posters, which I think actually impacted the that was one of the kind of inspirations for the Box Food Revolution logo, that kind of style. So then you're all going to hate me because you also didn't like them, but I have listed a couple of places. Oh, sorry, Charmaine, do you have a question?
Just a quick question. That one that you showed with the food waste, obviously he didn't create that with live food. So would you be going through sort of little tips, places to go that where you can create that kind of imagery?
I have put stuff in this about creating graphics, but not that. But I could try do that after, if that would be useful. More like in Photoshop or something. But that's a bit more. But yeah,
that's tricky, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, okay then. Yeah, if everybody else doesn't mind, that'd be great. Thanks.
So yeah, as I said, stock images, which we have said have some issues, but sometimes can be useful if you just need a very basic picture of, say, gardening or growing food. The ones I tend to use are Pixabay and one called Flickr, which has a range of different ones, but you have to check to make sure you have the right license. So I use the Creative Commons license, means you can use it. Then for more high quality ones, we tend at Feedback sometimes to use Shutterstock or iStock. Sometimes if we need a very specific image for a report or something, that might be, we might accept that we just have to pay for it because we can't find it or if we want a super high quality one. And they range in prices. It's not that expensive. So it, and sometimes maybe you just want one image and you can use it a few different times. So it can be probably worth using. Particularly we found if it's the front page of a report or something like that, you want a high quality image.
Is that down to the pixels with that? Just because I know on some of those you'll get a sort of a range of prices of different sizes. So I think you don't necessarily, unless you're going to have something really big on a banner, you may not need the biggest sort of definition.
Yeah, exactly. It depends what you're going to use it for, and and also depends what as I said, what the topic is. I found, because I was doing a bit of work as Beck and I was on fish farming for a while, and it was not easy to always find free images of fish farms, so I had to pay for some.
Can I ask you something, Christina? On Flickr, do you? I do understand the Creative Commons, and I didn't know it before, but do you still, I thought it was based on having to quote the source. So could you use it for social media posts, or could you just use it if you quote, or if you mention who the author was? How does it work?
Yeah, you could still use it. I think if you can put a little caption on the picture saying who it's from.
Okay.
But but if it's Creative Commons, you don't really have to. Then you can do that.
So potentially, I could use it for a post, write whichever blurb I want to put under, and then add a little note, pictures from.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know.
Without having to say link to it or something.
Yeah,
just
right.
A little caption at the end.
Thank you so much.
And so then I'm sure you've seen a lot of graphics like this on social media. This is one we did for, I don't know if anyone came to this event, Becca ran, called About Women in Farming. Sometimes I just use PowerPoint, which I know is kind of basic, but I think sometimes gets the job done. But the one we use the most is one called Canva. I don't know if anyone has used it. Yeah. So yeah, as you know, it's just a kind of online tool that gives you lots of sample templates, and there are pictures in it and various things, and it's quite easy to use. And something I didn't realize until recently was that charities can get Canva Pro for free. So that's something that it might be worth. I think what we're going to do at Feedback is create some sample templates in Canva so that everyone can just go in and very, very quickly make graphics, and they look quite similar, and they don't have to be starting from scratch each time. So then moving on to video, I have a couple of examples of videos we've made at feedback just to show. So hopefully this will work. Oh no, oh wait. Is that working? Can people?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can't hear it though.
Oh. I mean, it's just music. It's not saying anything, but that's annoying. Maybe it's Let me see if I share my screen from somewhere else. Can you hear that? No? Oh, I don't know. Okay. Well, we can just watch it without the music. It's just some light guitar strumming kind of in the background. So yeah, sorry the music didn't work, but that was just a really simple kind of slideshow video that we made for this new project that we have. And I think those kind of videos can be quite useful, especially if you have some nice images already, the project, just to tell the story of a project in quite a short space of time. And hopefully it's like what you were saying earlier, Sheila, that it doesn't take too long. Could be a nice format as well for a growing video, maybe of, you know, pictures of something growing at different stages, or a cooking video or something like that. I have another one, but it won't work if I can't get the volume to work. So let me just see if I can get the volume to work. Can you hear that or no? Okay, I'll send that one round then. This is just kind of a joke video we made, calling out this bullshit label that M&S uses, that they used to use, called Lochmuir salmon. And all the footage, which, I mean, I can just let it play while I'm talking, you can't hear it, was just shot on our phones. It was not in any way done professionally, and I just put it together. But it did quite well on social media. And I think one of my colleagues at feedback sometimes says, like, we're going to own low budget. And sometimes, I guess similar to what we were saying earlier, you can, I think, use the fact that something isn't professionally shot and doesn't look super stylized to kind of fit the tone of the video. And especially if maybe you have some humor in there or some sort of simple message, that can work quite well, I think. So I think, yeah, it would be to not underestimate what you can do just using your phone if you have a quite good idea or a funny idea. And yeah, maybe Becca will tell us after about all the different new gadgets she's got for her phone. So similar to that, I think that what I found useful is to think about, like, what's the purpose of the video? So because I think what you were saying, Sheila, earlier as well, is that sometimes people are trying to do too many things in a video. Yeah. And I think you want to try keep it short, especially on social media. So is it as an explainer? Do you want to explain a very simple thing? So it might be, I don't know, 5 things you didn't know about soil or something, right? Is it a call to action? So that might be if we're trying to get people to sign a petition, or maybe you're trying to get someone to come to an event and that's the main thing you're trying to get across. A how-to then might be more like some of those empowered to cook videos you guys were talking. So it's just a very simple, like, instructional video. And then it might be more promotional, like you're trying to promote your project or something else. So I think, again, thinking about what exactly the purpose of the video is, so you can keep it nice and short and concise and make sure it's just kind of getting one or two key things across. So then for making videos, the tools that I tend to use, so the one, Adobe Spark is good for those slideshow style ones I've been finding. These all vary in that some of them are free and some of them you do have to pay for them. Like, so it kind of depends, I think, how much you want to use them and how many videos you're going to make and the different types of videos. So for instance, Lumen 5 is a subscription one, but it has a lot of stock footage in it. So if that's something you might find useful, it might be worth paying for it. But also, as they were saying, even with PowerPoint, you can trim videos on YouTube. So if you have a longer video, say you just recorded a whole thing and you just want to maybe get rid of the bit at the start where you're like, crap, I'm holding my phone the wrong way. Like YouTube will let you do that itself beyond having to do it anywhere else. Yeah, so there's a whole variety of different tools and always different ones coming out. And they range in kind of how expensive they are, how easy they are to use. And I think it just depends on I just think you have to kind of play around with them and see what one works for you. And sometimes the simpler ones might work. And then I've just put in a note about making videos accessible. So I always try to put subtitles on all the videos I do, or at least captions or something. So firstly, because it's better because a lot of people aren't listening. If they're watching it on their phone or something, they're not, oftentimes they mightn't have their headphones in or actually be listening to the audio. And obviously it's better for someone who's hard of hearing. So similar to that, making sure the text is easy to read. And then if it's a more like an instructional video or something, we don't always do this, to be honest, but it can be good to provide a transcript of what's been said in the video. And then lastly, I've just put in, I don't know about if anyone is looking at making a website. The main ones, if you're not getting a custom one built, would be WordPress or Squarespace. We use WordPress, but I've also used Squarespace before. And I would say they both have pros and cons. It kind of depends on what you're trying. Again, how complicated your website needs to be, what information you want to have on it. Yeah, as I said, we use WordPress at Feedback, but it might depend on what you're looking for. So yeah, that's kind of the presentation. I'll stop sharing this. I'll stop sharing that now. So am I right in saying, Sharmi, that you wanted to have a quick look at how to edit photographs? Or
yeah, it was just really how to make it look eye-catching. Using lightings, well, I don't know if it's angles and stuff like that, but it was yeah, and I guess things like frames and all those kind of things help. And I know I'm going way off piste, but
I was gonna say, actually, with the videoing as well, that it's probably best to always record landscape, because if you think a lot of things will be more landscape than portrait, and actually you lose some of it if it's portrait, because it's sort of, by the time you've got it on a screen, it either compacts it or it just has something central. So something that we've been looking at is if you're going to be doing sort of recording, turn your phone on airplane mode, because it saves the battery, and it will obviously as well stop if you're going to get notifications coming through and things like that. But if you have it in landscape, you could put the grid views on so that you can get things sort of the rule of thirds that you get with photography, and things like that, and adjust your exposure. It's not so easy on like an iPhone, because it's sort of, the settings are a little bit different, but on analog you have the control over exposure. So take time on that, because sometimes you can really alter the light, which changes the whole feel of the photo, and makes it look a lot sort of more present and sort of more crisp. So that's really good as well if you're looking at photography and lighting. If you don't have fake lighting, if you don't take a little light around with you, it's sort of how to counteract that if you are in a field or something.
Yeah, And if you're taking pictures of food in general, I used to find that, I don't know why, the food always looks better outside. So when I worked at the BBC, I pretty much always took, if I take pictures of my food, I would take it outside. And often, like, it's so funny to me, like I said, like, we'd have to say like a chopping board or something that we had colored, and that would just be it, and you would have the food on it, but it would just be like in my yard, you know, outside. So I think it depends what you're taking. If you're going to be doing a lot of pictures of, say, cooking or something like that, it might be worth investing in a few really simple backgrounds, or even like a tablecloth or something that you just know work, or like that. Some of them we just actually painted them ourselves, like colors that we thought we liked.
I've just been doing that this weekend.
Oh, nice. Good weather for it. Yeah. And and then just a really simple kind of setup that you can just, you know, you can use again and again. We do have Photoshop at Feedback, but we don't tend to use it that much because it's a bit complicated. But Adobe does offer a charity discount if you wanted to look into getting it. And what's good about it is it's basically the same price to get the whole Adobe Creative Suite. So that includes InDesign, if you want to use InDesign, and Photoshop, and Adobe Elements, which is another one, and like audio.
Well.
Sorry?
Does it do Lightbox as well then?
I think so. And I think it also does like Audition, which is if you want to edit like sound stuff, which I've used, and it's pretty easy. So I think it's still kind of expensive. I think it's like $200 a year, but I think you get all of them. So it's actually probably pretty. And I think I can double check Becca and but I think we just literally had to email them and be like, we're a charity. And then they were like, okay, here's your discount. So I think if you really want to go a bit further photographs, that's probably a good way of investing in something like that, and then just playing around with them a bit. I mean, to be honest, like, you can do a fair bit even in PowerPoint. Like if I just open my PowerPoint here again. Oh, that's
editing. Oh yeah, because you can do all the animations and stuff, don't you?
And if I just
even on Instagram, the editing is pretty great. I mean, apart from the filters themselves, but you can adjust luminosity, light, and sharpness and all that. So sometimes I did in the past when I needed a picture that I didn't need it on Instagram, but I needed it on a website. I just went on Instagram, modified it, saved it, and then use it on the website, because I could edit it quite quickly without having other programs to do it with.
What is the optimum for Instagram? What is the length? You know, before it goes into the HDTV or whatever, IGTV.
I think it's just a minute, right?
It is a minute.
Yeah, it's pretty short. So they really want you to get it like to the point.
The reels are really short as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like fiddling around with it too long. That's what you end up doing for most of them.
Yeah. So in PowerPoint, I don't know if you can see, so if you click on format picture, it will, let me just get rid of it. It will give you the options of like you can adjust the brightness and stuff. So like picture color and the transparency. So you can just kind of like, so sometimes I will, if I want to create a picture, so you can make it like darker, or you can play around. So it's not super advanced, but it will allow you to do certain things like that. And then you just would go file, save as, and instead of a PowerPoint presentation, it will let you pick like a JPEG.
Yeah.
So will that just have the photo, not the whole screen?
Yeah.
You have to highlight that though?
Yeah, I think if you highlight it this way.
And then save it, not if you clicked out of it and then saved.
Yeah. And what I find that sometimes useful for is if, say you have a picture, say you had a really nice picture of a field or something, and you want to put something on top of it, but the text isn't standing out enough, then you could maybe make the picture darker, just a little bit darker or something, so the text contrasts a bit more. You could do something similar to like that on Canva as well. I mean, also, just because I was playing around with it last week, making memes of the boat stuck in the canal. You know, obviously it's not the same in terms of quality, but there are a lot of online meme generators as well, where you can go online and just type in whatever one you want, and it will basically like put the text here, put this here, which, you know, mightn't always be working, but sometimes I'm like, oh, this would be a good one for us to do. And again, I think that's kind of an example of more of a simple, low quality image, but you're trying to get some point across or something.
What sort of content do people tend to use the most, and content maybe that they shy away from maybe using in what they do with the stuff currently that they use?
Do you mean like people watching it, or?
Oh yeah, or within the group, like, you know, are there particular things that you may shy away from rather than using within your content creation? Or are there particular things, like, I know I've asked Christina recently about blogging, because I've never done it before, and it's like, well, I can write an article, I can get some pictures, but how do I make that into a blog? You know, how does it meet that criteria rather than just being me writing an article? So yeah, I don't know if you want to.
I mean, I think a lot of it is what we've covered already. So like keeping it short, which can be really hard, especially at feedback. Sometimes the messages are complicated and I have to fight with other staff. They're like, no, but this is really important. And so I think you want to, coming back to that thing of thinking of how you want the audience to feel, it's also thinking about, you know, how much will they know? So it's a very entry-level cooking video, I guess. You know, you want it to be someone starting from scratch would be able to follow this. So you have to check, I guess, your assumptions. And what I do sometimes, quite basic, but I just ask my friends who say don't work in the environmental sector, I might show them a video I have been working on and say, does this make sense to you? Because asking other people who are interested in it, they're probably going to get a similar, you know, so yeah, that can be useful. Yeah, and I think, yeah, so I think that would be, I think that's the thing, you know, keeping it kind of to the point, like we said earlier. Like I find the same, you were saying, Sheila, that if something goes on a bit too long, my brain just kind of drifts off, and I guess we all have such short attention spans now, but yeah.
What about voiceovers? So you mentioned them. Is there a particular, because it's quite easy to get images maybe from, like, when we're out and about in the allotment or things like that, possibly put them in some sort of slideshow or sort of edit into a film. I mean, recording a voiceover sometimes means that we don't have to worry about, you know, the wind or the birds or, you know, a motorbike starting up in the background. Is there anything that you would suggest that we could use to record voiceovers, or maybe to edit those two alongside each other? What would you say would be best for that?
I mean, I think you can, so we have started doing just recording, if we do certain blogs, recording an audio of it, so to make it easier for some, to make it more accessible for some people. And we've just done them on our phones, and the quality is high enough, unless you're trying to do something super professional. So I think you can just, and even recently I've done a couple of podcasts with different people, and they've just been recording them over Zoom. Like they've just been having a conversation over Zoom and just recording that and uploading it. So yeah, it depends. So on a lot of the video tools I mentioned earlier, they will have a thing where you can just insert a voiceover. So on Adobe Spark, they have that. And I think Lumen 5 has that. So for most of them, they'll give you the option to either insert that or insert, say, music, and you could just upload it as the music, kind of. Yeah.
To add to that, actually, you mentioned about adding the transcript. Is that available on most of the video maker type things, or do you have to get an app for that as well?
I think some have it, but not all of them. So yeah, I think it depends, I guess, what it is as well, if how long it is and stuff. But I know some people have said to me that they're like, it's a useful thing to have. But yeah. I know I'll check if there was one, a colleague mentioned one that was like free recently, and they're not always perfect, but so I'll get the name of that and give it to Becca.
I think for some websites, to make them accessible, the transcript is there. I think Bucks County now comms have got a bit of a policy about having all sort of websites or pages that are created should be accessible. So and therefore you know, for all different aspects of accessibility online.
I think there's plugins, isn't there, that you can use for websites, a bit like Google Translate, but you can also get ones that maybe when you hover over certain things, it will do an audio recording. Like this is a picture of a man pushing a wheelbarrow, up with parsnips and 6 cactuses or something.
And on some platforms, like on Twitter, you can, when you upload an image, it will give you the option of, do you want to put in a caption? So saying that, like this is 2 people pushing a wheelbarrow or something.
Right.
And is that sort of your guidance with, I mean, obviously with images, there's copyright a lot of the time, unless you are getting an image that, you know, you find somewhere. What would you suggest people do about, because just generally on social media, you don't always get that option to, saying to put the credit on there. Would you just put it in the body of the text, maybe at the bottom, the photo credit, rather than not doing that?
It depends where it's from. Like often we don't do that. I think it's probably best practice to add it, but if there's no space and if it's from a free website where they've said you don't need to credit it, then it's fine. If it says specifically somewhere you need to credit it, then you need to do it. But I think it's like a nice thing to do sometimes, but if it says you don't have to do it, which I think most of the ones on Pixabay are like that, then it's okay to just do it without it.
Adding to that, would you recommend that we put our own little stamp on our pictures and videos somewhere in there so that they can't be used?
Yeah, we tend to always, like, on feed most of the time. I mean, it depends. Like some, I'm like, no one's like that spoof video in Scotland. I was like, no one's stealing this, but it depends on so it might depend, but it can be a nice thing, and it can be a nice thing just in terms of branding as well, to have, you know, just like a little watermark in the corner, I think. In general, I don't know how common it is with people stealing other, because when I worked at the BBC, people would steal our pictures, and sometimes I would have to email them and be like, it depended on the website. If it was a small one, we just set it off, but sometimes it was quite a big blog and we were like, no, you've just stolen that, and we'd just kind of message them and be like, can you take that down? I don't know if anyone's ever really stolen a feedback picture. I don't know if it happens. For me, I think
more than stealing is about reposting. So it's rather, I'm very happy someone steal my picture, but as long as there's a watermark on, the moment
so they know where it came from,
it's free advertising for me, or for my organization or whoever it is that's created it.
I think if you can fit it in, it's nice so that it doesn't get lost, as you said, and like that it's got shared by someone else, but they don't know where it came from.
A lot of time people do repost, and if they don't say what the source is, by adding the watermark, you make sure that you go around.
What would you say for content that maybe isn't necessarily sort of social media content? Let's say we'd created a PDF about the best way to oil your wheelbarrow in your community garden, or something really important. What would you say? So how do we best sort of without copyrighting it, you know, officially, how would you say it's best to look after our content? Because I think something that's, you know, we've had lots of conversations about, oh, is it all right for you to take my video and put it on here? I mean, I think it's sort of common practice that people can embed links to other people's, you know, YouTubes and things like that. But from, you know, intellectual property, isn't it? I guess, whether it's an individual or if it's an organisation, how best do we safeguard our work in that sense that, you know, it might be that we're quite happy for it to go around, but if people start taking logos off and putting other logos on, how best do we safeguard some of the work that we do, so that it doesn't get lost, or if other people take credit for work that's been done by organisations?
Well, I think that thing we were saying is like to try put the logo on it. It depends what it is. So whenever we do a report, we're like, please cite it this way with, you know, feedback. And so maybe that's a way, as Olaf saying, please, you know, refer to it this way, and having that quite visible. And then beyond that, I guess it depends what the document is. So for instance, we created a very in-depth toolkit about setting up these Feeding the 5,000 events. And some elements of it were free online, but because we kind of wanted to keep track of who wanted the full one, it was like you had to put in your email to request it. So I guess you have a bit more control that way. We didn't think it was worth doing that for all the shorter ones, but we decided it was worth, so we just created a simple form on the website, which was, you know, I think it was literally like, put your email in and tell us what type, where the event you're thinking of having is going to be, or some other information. So I guess if you maybe created a detailed resource like that, and you wanted to kind of make sure it just wasn't going everywhere, and then you can keep track a bit of who's used it, but the trade-off then is people mightn't be bothered to put their email in, so it might get less use. But I think that would probably depend on what the document is.
Cool. Any other questions?
I think quite a good free audio editor is Audacity.
Yeah, I've used that one as well. It's good.
Yeah,
it seems, I don't know, some of my friends, I was doing this course, and some people really didn't like it. I guess that's the thing. I feel like you have to play around with them, because some people, for some reason, some people were like, I can't use Audacity, whereas when I tried it, I was like, it's actually all right. So I think it's the same with video stuff. For some people, they might really like one platform or another, and it doesn't necessarily mean that one's better. It just might suit you a bit more, or you find it a bit easier to use yourself.
Yeah. And a cheaper sort of graphics package, apart from the most expensive ones, Paint Shop Pro is quite a cheap, much cheaper version.
Is that for editing images and stuff though?
Yeah.
Cool. Right then. That time of the evening.
It's still bright though, so that's
yeah,
nice.
no, exactly. You've got a little